Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. How you guys doing? Here we are today for a special video. Christian Eriksen, who has been confirmed in the last few days that he is leaving Inter by mutual consent. Christian Eriksen's story at Inter is over, and what a story it was. And here today I'm here to tell you about that story, a story about lots of highs and lots of lows, and the lows were very low, and just give you my Interista perspective on everything. If you're Interista, just kind of jotting back your memory on exactly what happened. And if you're a non-Interista, just giving you an insight into exactly what happened with Eriksen, Inter, Conte, everything that went on. And it's just my little tribute to a great player who was a great seven for Inter. So without further ado, let's get into Christian Eriksen's timeline at Inter. Of course, everything starts off with a big hype. Christian Eriksen is coming to Inter, and some of us were actually really excited. Yes, Christian Eriksen is officially an Inter player. Yes guys, I'm so excited to announce that Inter have finally signed Christian Eriksen. As you can see, I was pretty hyped about Eriksen coming to Inter, and of course, why not? Why wouldn't I be? The guy is coming in as one of the best attacking midfielders of his generation, and coming in with a big reputation, with some big stats. And the signing happened in the midst of Inter challenging for the Scudetto, for a title. And was he going to be the cherry on top that would take Inter to the title? And certainly the way Inter brought him in showed that, they had a lot of faith in Eriksen. Eriksen's contract was expiring in 6 months, so Inter could have technically just waited and signed him on a free transfer, but they didn't want to wait and try to get into a bidding war and try to convince Eriksen over other clubs. They came in, gave Spurs 20 million plus some agent fees to convince Eriksen, also making him the second highest paid player after Lukaku in the team. So, big statement. And Eriksen himself had pretty much, admitted that he wanted a new challenge in the Amazon All or Nothing documentary, which came out after everything happened. We found out that Eriksen was, wanting this new adventure at Inter. He wanted to change from his experience at Spurs, so this seemed like a good fit. However, the doubts were already there even before Eriksen came. Is he going to fit into what Antonio Conte wants? We know Antonio Conte is a very specific man when it comes to the type of footballer he wants, and Eriksen doesn't fit into the stereotype of what a Conte player is. And yet, as we found out, there were some issues with that in his Inter career. Yes, he had a stuttering start in his career at Inter, and I actually expected it. I did not expect the guy to come in and make a big impact. I wasn't making claims that this guy was going to be, the guy to lead us to Scudetto or anything like that. He made his Serie A debut from the start in February away at Udinese, and it was a pretty, bland performance, nothing of note. And after that debut from the start, he only had substitute appearances in the next 3 big matches versus Milan in the derby, where actually there was a couple of flashes of real quality. Then against Lazio and Juventus again as a substitute, which showed that really Conte didn't really trust him yet, and you couldn't really blame him. And then unfortunately the pandemic hits, which it didn't just affect Eriksen, it affected all of us. But it affected Eriksen more than you might think, because the negotiations between Tottenham and Inter dragged on until the conclusion of the January transfer window. Eriksen actually didn't have a home in Milan by the time the pandemic hit. And at that time, he was living in a hotel in Milan. And then he opted to move into Inter's training ground, the Suning training center, or Piano Gentile as they call it. And he was there for the majority of the lockdown in Italy with a few members of Inter staff, coaching staff, and chefs and other people like that. And according to him, actually, he went a few weeks without touching a football, even though he was just a stone's throw away from great football pitches at the training center. After the pandemic finished and football reopened in Italy, when things restarted, it looks like there were some signs of signs of hope, signs of recovery for Eriksen in this Inter team. One of the first matches after the restart against Sampdoria, he showed signs of chemistry with the team. He assisted Lukaku, he linked up with Lautaro, and the formation from Conte was actually tweaked to a 3-4-1-2 to try to fit him into his preferred role as a centre attacking midfielder. However, the 3-4-1-2, aside from this match, it just never seemed to be the right fit for the team in general. And even Eriksen weirdly didn't really seem to be enjoying his role in this formation either, even though it was technically tailor-made for him. And even Conte alluded to playing this formation to fit Eriksen's needs. However, the positive performance against Sampdoria seemed to be just a forced dawn. However, after 2 forgetful performances against Sassuolo and Parma, he didn't really get those starts ever again. And whenever Conte was asked about Eriksen's lack of playing time or anything related to Eriksen, he always talks about how he needs to increase his intensity, how he needs to adapt more to the Italian way of playing. And it never really looked like Eriksen was winning Conte over. And then Inter went on to the Europa League final, which Eriksen contributed to by scoring 2 goals in the lead up to that final. And in the Europa League final against Sevilla, he was benched. Started on the bench and then in the end was only given around 12 minutes to somehow make an impact when Inter were losing to Sevilla. And Roberto Gagliardini was favoured to him in that match, which annoyed me and lots of Inter fans a lot at that time. And it was one of those decisions by Conte which we still trying to think exactly what was he thinking. And that match almost turned out to be Conte's last match at Inter until he was convinced to stay on for another season, and probably Eriksen was half wishing that maybe Conte would have left. But it doesn't matter, the 2021 season begins. Maybe it's a new season, fresh start, right? And you'd think so. He starts the first game against Fiorentina, but yeah, false hope. He gets substituted pretty early on. He was the first guy to be subbed off after Inter were losing to Fiorentina in that first match of the season, as they were losing 3-2, and then after he was subbed on, Inter managed to win in the end 4-3. After that, he was benched for 3 games in a row, including the Derby di Milano. Then he started against Genoa and Parma, but again, he was ineffective and subbed off around the 60th minute. And in that Parma match, something broke between Conte and Eriksen. According to reports, Conte didn't like how slowly Eriksen was walking to take one of the corners. And also Eriksen was firing shots whenever he went to international duty with Denmark, saying that he hopes to be playing more. He doesn't understand why he doesn't play much, or you need to ask Conte why exactly he isn't playing much at Inter, which further annoyed Antonio Conte. And at this point, one thing I want to point out on a personal level, and I think a lot of Inter fans felt this, is Eriksen was never bad at Inter until this point. It was just that he was ineffective in most matches. He was neat and tidy, he always has that technical ability, but he never really, took the game by the scruff of the neck. But a lot of times he didn't really get the time to. Like the Sevilla Europa League final, expecting someone like Eriksen to make an impact in 12 minutes, that's not the type of player Eriksen is. What's he gonna do with 3 or 4 minutes at the end of a match? And that's where at that time a lot of the blame on his failure at Inter, I think, was shared between Conte and himself. And now we reach Eriksen's lowest point at Inter, which was the 5th of December 2020, when he's brought on in the 91st minute against Bologna as Inter are winning. That face says everything. There's nothing else that needs to be said. That is the face of a broken man. Some people were actually, genuinely worried about his mental health in terms of how he was looking. Of course, the Toby from The Office type of look with the hairstyle did not help. And for the following 9 fixtures after that match, he was barely even a squad player. He only appeared for a combined 80 minutes and he was mostly as an unused sub, and it really looked like this was the end of Christian Eriksen's time at Inter, especially with the January transfer window looming. However, now we get to the 13th of January 2021, and some things happen in the squad. Some injuries are there, especially in midfield. Conte doesn't really have too many options. There's the need for a proper Vice Brozovic, and in the Coppa Italia match against Fiorentina, he tries out Eriksen in a brand new role as a Regista. And the results were kind of mixed in that match. He looked decent, of course, on the ball. The guy's technically one of the best around, so whenever he's spraying balls around, he looked really good. But then off the ball, of course, he needed a lot of work. But it looked like, this could be maybe a lifeline, being that potential Vice Brozovic, getting some more play time maybe in that new position. And this is the moment that leads to the revival, the ignition of Christian Eriksen's career at Inter, the true arrival of Christian Eriksen at Inter. And that is, of course, once again in the Coppa Italia, but against AC Milan in the derby. A derby that was already very spicy, had a few storylines going on thanks to the Zlatan Lukaku beef, the Zlatan red card. And the match when Eriksen was brought on as a substitute was in, finally in balance, 1-1 scoreline. Eriksen, just a few seconds after coming on, gets to take a free kick on the edge of the box. He takes a deep breath and boom, one of his trademark, beautifully curled free kicks into the top corner. All the pent-up emotions in this guy came out for the world to see. His teammates knew it, they all jumped on him, and the way you could just see the relief on his face. Such an amazing moment as an Inter fan to watch that happen, to see Christian Eriksen finally get that potential Kickstarter goal. And that truly was the moment where his career just completely turned around at Inter. After that match, he started once again in the defensive mid position against Benevento and put up a man of the match performance, showing that he was getting accustomed to that new role and getting accustomed to the team and getting more chemistry and understanding exactly what Conte wants from him. You could see he was starting to put in some more tackles, starting to go into 50-50, starting to put that intensity that Conte wants from his players. But actually in the end, he becomes a mainstay in the team as a left centre mid or as a mezzala in the 3-5-2 formation, where he drops deep, as a second regista at times to pick up the ball and help Inter to build up from the back, which was one of the weaknesses of Conte's Inter at times. So in the end, he really helped out Conte by resurrecting his career at Inter, because he created a new outlet for Inter to play out from the back, helping Brozovic and the defense to play out from the back. But that position also allowed him to get into more attacking positions and use his best attributes in terms of passing and shooting from outside the box. And after that, he starts every big match, apart from the Atalanta match, where even though he comes on as a substitute, he actually makes a massive impact after he comes on for Arturo Vidal and shows how important he has become to this team. And then finally, the culmination of his Inter career, Scudetto winning goals. When Eriksen came to Inter, he was known for his long range shooting ability, being one of the top 5 best shooters from outside the box over the last 6-7 seasons. But Interista didn't really get to see that part of him until the Napoli match away at Napoli, when a rocket from Eriksen from outside the box secures a vital point for Inter in the Scudetto race. And then the goal that goes down in history for Inter fans, and I'm sure the goal that he will be remembered for a long time by Inter fans. His goal, once again from outside the box, another rocket from outside the box against Crotone to break the deadlock, the goal to secure the Scudetto mathematically. And then he finished off the season in trademark style with a trademark free kick against Udinese, which ended up being, at the time we didn't know, his last ever game for Inter and his last ever goal for Inter, but a very fitting last goal for Inter. And then of course we know what happened after the season ended. He went off to the Euros with his national team Denmark, and it's the incident that we don't really want to talk about, but all we know is that he's now much better, recovered, healthy, and looks like he is ready to play football professionally again. Unfortunately, it won't be at Inter. His adventure at Inter is over, but I'm glad Christian Eriksen played for Inter, one of my favorite players of the modern era. I'm so glad that in the last 6 months he was able to turn around his career at Inter and cement himself as a very important player for that Scudetto run. So all I can say is thank you, Christian Eriksen. Good luck. Wish you the best and hope to see you at the San Siro one day to celebrate with us. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope I gave you a nice reminder of Christian Eriksen's time at Inter, what went good, what went wrong. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and comment down below, what was your favorite Christian Eriksen moment at Inter? Was it the goal in the derby against Milan, which I'm guessing it probably is, or was it some other moment that I missed out? Let me know in the comments below. And as always guys, Forza Inter, ciao.